Welcome to another episode of Shed Manufacturing. In this episode, we'll be focusing on my 1979 Volvo station wagon daily driver. Now, I've noticed there's been a bit of a front suspension clunk for a little while now, but as it's my daily and I have other things, I sort of let it get a little worse than I should have, and the control arm bushings pretty much completely failed. These are IPD polyurethane units and are pretty high quality. The steering feels quite nice when they're fresh. But the car sees a decent amount of abuse, be it mountain roads or just daily driving, getting loaded up with everything, and it does have a good bit more power than I think they were really meant to. So what we'll be doing today is replacing the polyurethane section with the same thing, with another IPD piece, and at the same time I'll be installing these lovely little IPD subframe connectors or subframe braces. These connect the pockets for the rear of the lower control arm and the center of the front engine cross member, the engine cradle where the front of the control arm is held. And by doing that, it eliminates some of the flex, and these were actually a factory option on some of the later model GT cars, and so it's just a good idea to do it as it's a car that's driven a little more spiritedly than most.
I suppose introduction is in order. This is my 1979 Volvo 245. It's powered by a Ford 302 with a Powerdyne Supercharger, and it's the best all-round car I've ever owned. I'm the second owner, and I rescued it from a junkyard to swap the engine a few years ago. Once we got the car on the lift, the problem couldn't be more obvious. These control arm bushings were absolutely shot. Luckily, access is easy. 3 bolts lets the cups come loose and drop enough to provide access to the 1 nut per arm to release the bushing from the cup. With time, heat, and friction doing most of the bushing removal process for us, all we had to do was push the new ones in. These polyurethane bushings can be a real handful and have a tendency to side load in the cup as you press them in. Luckily, the press made light work of this and they only tried to get away from me once. Now we just slot the refreshed bushing cups back onto the control arms and bolt them up to the appropriate ugga-dugga spec. Now the install of the chassis frame braces can begin. The process is fairly simple. Bolt the front to an already existing hole in the subframe, and then with the rear cup bolted in, mark on the cup where to drill for the second hole, and bolt them together. The passenger side presented a problem that most Volvo owners probably don't encounter, seeing as there are no passenger side headers on most Volvos. Luckily, the interference wasn't that bad, and I was able to set up what I believe is the sketchiest press tool arrangement I've ever seen. I'm serious, this is the wrong way to do this. This whole setup was begging to spring out of the press and fly across the shed. But I got away with it this time, and it fit perfectly first try. I had a small case of scope creep while I had the Volvo in the shed and decided I didn't like the pulley system very much, so I wanted to change it and add a different belt tensioner to reduce belt slip. So out came the Supercharger assembly. I cut off the old boss I welded on for a different tensioner and installed one that came down further and mounted on some holes on the plate. Now to reinstall and test fit the new belt routing. I did have some interference with the belts and decided modifying the idler pickup was the way to go. I moved the pin approximately 1 inch to the left, and that cleared up all of our interference issues. Next up is a simple progressive throttle linkage install for the Holley Sniper EFI. It allows better drivability by only opening the primaries until about 47% throttle, and then it opens the secondaries. This is a mod I should have done years ago and has massively improved how the car drives.